hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant. For you, hate.
So, this week on Arena on a Budget, we're making a standard version of one of my favorite archetypes in Magic, Hatebears. So if you don't know, Hatebear is a term used in Magic for small creatures that disrupt your opponent, either by making their cards more expensive to cast, or by stopping them from playing a certain way. So for our standard Hatebear deck, Hatebear 1 is Drannith Magistrate. Drannith Magistrate is a 2-mana 1/3 human. Remember the human part because that's important later. He has the ability, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. So the number one thing Drannith Magistrate shuts down, and what can really just beat some decks on its own, is shutting down companions. So companions are cards that if you meet a certain restriction listed on the card, you get to start the game with a companion exiled, and then at any point you can just cast your companion in the same way you could cast a commander. But the key part of that is they start in exile, and that's where your opponent would cast them from. And Drannith Magistrate just single-handedly shuts that down. So, because companions are running around all over the place, Drannith Magistrate is a great hate bear in the format right now. Our other hate bear, where we spend 2 more of our rares, is Lavabrink Venturer. Lavabrink Venturer is a 3-mana, 3/3 human soldier. Again, the human part's important. As it enters the battlefield, we choose either odd or even, and then it either has protection from all odd converted mana cost spells, or all even converted mana cost cards. Having protection from odd or even means it can't be dealt damage by an odd or an even card, it can't be targeted by an odd or an even card, and it can't be blocked by an odd or an even card, among other things. So we pick either odd or even depending on our opponent's deck, and Lavabrink Venturer will oftentimes become this kind of untouchable threat. A card that just blanks all of our opponent's removal, or gets past all their tokens to hit them in the face, or can just infinitely block a giant creature without actually taking damage. Having this little 3/3 that our opponent can't interact with is actually way stronger than it seems. And like I said, both of these creatures being human is actually important because the other key piece of our deck is Winota, Joiner of Forces. So Winota, Joiner of Forces is a legendary 4-mana 4/4. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until the end of the turn. So we're not like a hardcore Winota combo deck. We can drop Winota on turn 4, get in with a bunch of our non-human tokens, our Azlids, which are also non-human, our Regal Leosaurs. Sky Knight Vanguard makes 1/1 soldiers that aren't human. We dig through our deck and we spit out all our hate bears, we disrupt our opponent, we make these threats they can't deal with. Sky Knight Vanguard is actually doubly good because it's also a human we can hit that makes non-human, so it kind of does both jobs we want it to do. And the one big human we have to dig out of our deck is Reverend Hoplite. So we can cast this card, but we're hoping to hit it off of our Winota. After we churn through our deck, spit out a bunch of hate bears, a bunch of evasive attackers, we're able to drop the Reverend Hoplite, make like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tokens that can clog up the board, and then we can finish things off with our hate bears. Our deck can kind of backdoor its way into a go-wide strategy. We have Raise the Alarm, we have Sky Knight Vanguard to make a bunch of tokens, and we have Regal Leosaur to pump the whole team. So Venerated Loxodon also plays into that. We sometimes have games where we go turn 2, Raise the Alarm, turn 3, play a land, Raise the Alarm, and then tap 4 of those tokens and that 1 extra land to play our Venerated Loxodon, get a 4/4 on the battlefield, make all of our 1/1s into 2/2s, and just like really crush our opponent as early as turn 3. And it also powers up our hate bears themselves, putting a +1/+1 counter on Lavabrink Venture, so it's a 4/4 that's nigh unanswerable is just great. And in general, we can really easily just spit out Venerated Loxodon without spending sometimes any mana at all. For card advantage, we have Light Up the Stage. We're just really good at getting in damage with this deck. We have, evasive 2-drops. We have Raise the Alarm, which gives us 2 1/1 bodies, so at least one of them should be able to get in. We have Lavabrink Venturer, which again, if it has protection from your opponent's creatures, it can't be blocked, so it can get in damage and we get to draw cards off a Light Up the Stage. So we just have a lot of ways to damage our opponent, draw extra cards, and this allows us to kind of go long. We don't have to be a sort of all-in aggro strategy or an all-in combo strategy. This sort of provides us some extra power, some way we can kind of recover from being disrupted. We're also running 2 copies of Merchant of the Veil, and Merchant of the Veil allows us to dig through our deck, find our Winota. We can discard a Reverend Hoplite if we draw it in hand and we just don't really want to cast it. Extra copies of Winota, for example, or maybe Shocks if we don't need them at the moment, or even just lands. If we flood out, this gives us a way not to flood out. And importantly, it's also a human, so it gives us its adventure ability, but also when we're going off with Winota and just throwing our deck onto the field, even though it's just a 2/3 indestructible that's immediately attacking is pretty good when you're spitting it out with Winota. For removal, running 4 copies of Shock, 2 copies of Conclave Tribunal. Again, we're just pretty good at going wide, so Conclave Tribunal we can oftentimes turn on. fairly easily, especially with our Raise the Alarms. Shock is pretty good interaction, and when we're going on our more aggressive plan, it allows us to burn our opponent out. And finally, our companion is Gigantha the Wellspring. So its companion restriction is no card in our starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. And we're able to get around that pretty easily. You know, all our cards either have just like one white mana pip, one red mana pip, or just a red and a white, which Gigantha is okay with. It just can't be two of the same. So Gigantha can also tap itself to add white, blue, black, red, and green mana to our mana pool. But in general, we're not going to be using that ability of Gigantha. Gigantha is basically just a free 5/5 for 5 in our deck, which is great because it's protection from flooding. You know, if we just draw too many lands, we can play basically a free 5/5 for 5 if we've got nothing better to do. And the fact that it's a non-human creature is also really great. Our opponent knows we're on a Winota deck and like kills all of our early creatures, our Raise the Alarm tokens that are not human, and our Regalia swords. If our opponent kills all those, we're able to kind of have one in the backup. You know, we can play the Gigantha, attack with it, and trigger our Winota sort of as a safeguard. It's also a non-human for Regalia sword to mutate onto as well, which is pretty nice. And just in general, just having a free 8th card in your starting hand every game is just kind of ridiculously powerful. So we made sure we could squeeze Gigantha in here. So the mana base is pretty simple. I am running some rare lands, but just run as many rare lands as you've got, and fill in the rest with like common dual lands like Windscarred Crag. I'd actually also recommend running Savai Triome instead of Windscarred Crag. So both of these lands enter the battlefield tapped, which is the biggest downside on both of them. This one gains you a life, but Savai Triome, even though we're not using the black mana in this deck, having Cycling 3, the ability to cycle it away if you're flooding and you don't need another land, is pretty powerful. Ideally, you would probably want to do something like 4 Sacred Foundry, 4 Temple of Triumphs. But if you don't have those, check to see if you have any Savai Triomes before you start using Windscarred Crags. Those are a little bit better. So in the sideboard, we have Fight as 1, which is particularly good against Wrath decks. It makes basically 2 of our creatures because we have a decent mix of humans and non-humans. This will typically be 1 mana, save 2 of our creatures from a Wrath, you know. Or if our opponent just has a bunch of removal, it could also be worth it. Typically, you don't want to use it as like a combat trick, but if your opponent has a lot of removal, it's worth bringing this in. We also have Apostle of Purifying Light, which is actually one of our sideboard Hatebears. It's just fantastic against any black deck. It's actually a human, so we can pull it out of our deck with Winota, which is great. So Apostle Purifying Light, if you ever go against a black deck, bring that in. Devout Decree, this is against like mono red or any other, you know, creature or planeswalker-based black or red deck. Lava Coil to answer bigger threats, cards like Questing Beast, cards like, you know, if our opponent's mutating or whatever, this is a good answer to bring in. Or even if you just really need to remove, you know, if you get up against the cycling deck and you just really need to pull in extra removal to deal with their build arounds, you know, you can bring this in. Unchained Berserker, another honorary Hatebear in our sideboard. Again, this is a human, so we can pull it out of the deck with Winota. This has protection from white and is a 3/1 as long as it's attacking. So this is pretty good against, well, you know, if you're up against like a mono white deck, it's great, but also against just decks with white-based removal, typically, or, you know, Teferi decks. Teferi can't bounce this, which is pretty good. So, good to bring in against certain decks. Flame Sweep for any decks that are trying to go wide, you know, anything that's trying to make a bunch of tokens or whatever. Most of our creatures do survive it. Our Draenei Magistrates survive the Flame Sweep. Our Lavabrink Venturers survive the Flame Sweep. Sky Knight Vanguard does, but our tokens do not. So just something to keep in mind if you are planning on sweeping your opponent. You probably don't want to be running out a bunch of tokens beforehand. And then 2 more copies of Conclave Tribunal. This is to bring in against decks like Fires of Invention or Wilderness Reclamation. Cards that just have some, you know, weird permanent, like an enchantment that we need to answer immediately, not to lose, you know. That's why we're kind of running 2 of these in the main deck, to be honest, because there are just a lot of decks that are a lot of, you know, kind of build around decks in the format right now, so having access to these in the main deck is pretty nice, and we can bring in 2 more if we are against a deck like that, which a lot of times we will be, so these come in a lot. But anyway, that's going to wrap up the deck tech for our Winota Hatebears deck. So we'll jump into the gameplay here in a second, but there will be a section at the end of the video where I talk about potential upgrades you can make for the deck. These will be cards you can spend some extra mythic or rare wild cards on if you want to power up the deck a bit. Or if you just already have the cards I talk about during the update section, you can just slot those in, slot out some of these more common and uncommon cards, and you'll make the deck a little more competitive that way. But that's for the end of the video, so for now, let's jump into the gameplay. So on to game 1. Alright, playing some Winota Hatebears, and yeah, we'll keep this hand. We've got our Raise the Alarm, we've got our Light Up the Stage, good combo. Be able to raise the alarm on turn 2, get in some damage, and draw some cards off our Light Up the Stage. Yeah, we'll keep a second Light Up the Stage, I think. Seems pretty good. More card advantage is good. That is sort of the kind of cool thing about this deck, is it's not just all in on the aggro plan, all in on the combo plan. We actually do have some, you know, some long game in the form of card advantage with these Light Up the Stages. We can pull ourselves back from a Wrath and stuff like that by drawing some cards effectively. Let's see what our opponent does. They're on the cycling deck. They've got Luris as their companion. They've just cycled. Okay, yeah, and they got the Fox, which is probably the best payoff in the deck, I think. There's also the 2-mana 3/1 that makes a token when you cycle. But I think this is like their boss card, basically. Alright, they cycle, make it a 2/2. This is actually a little more problematic than I think the 3/1 would be, because we're going to get to the point where nothing can get through this. Do we want to just attack in just to trigger or light up the stage? That seems like kind of a waste. I think I'll actually just get out this Loxodon. Basically a 3-mana 4/4 this way that pumps up our other 2 creatures. Which will mean they won't just trade with like 1/1s if they do eventually find that other oh well, there it is. So when this thing starts making 1/1s, our tokens can sort of not just trade for 1/1s, but we can't really attack effectively at all with that Fox on the battlefield, so... Well, okay, well we drew a removal spell for the Fox. I do think we want to get rid of that rather than the 3/1. The tokens are annoying, but ultimately we can work our way through those. I don't think that the Fox just kind of locks us down, so I think we want to leave 1 mana open to light up the stage. Get rid of the Fox. Go to combat, and we should be able to attack here and get through some damage. Our opponent is almost certainly not going to block with a 3/1. They might just block with a 1/1 to save 4 damage, you know, just chump with it. But that 3/1 they want to keep, so we should be able to get through some damage here and light up the stage. So let's see what happens. Okay, opponent, let's draw through. We will light up the stage. Alright, there's a Leosaur, okay. Not the best thing on a deck full, or on a board full of 1/1 creatures, because the pump doesn't matter all that much. Although I guess it does make it harder for them to just trade with 1/1s. This is a little brutal. Okay, so our opponent makes a couple 1/1s, and I'm assuming they've got another 1-mana cycler, so on our turn they'll get 2 more. Well, I think we still probably want to cast the Leosaur though, because we don't want to lose it. We might as well get the advantage while we can. So let's pump up our team, make it harder for them to trade their 1/1s for. This way they got to trade at least 3 1/1s per creature instead of just 2. So they might just chump again. And if they're doing that, then we're getting the 1/1s off the battlefield, and eventually we'll do we have what? 3? Yeah, okay. And yeah, let's get in with the Leosaur too. So get in with everything, and let's see if they chump or if they... Okay, looks like they're just going to chump. Alright, so they're just chumping. Get 3 of the tokens off the battlefield, which is fine. Our opponent does get to crack us back in the face here a little bit, but that's okay. And we'll pass turn. Yeah, if we do get... The more tokens we get off the battlefield here, the better, because eventually we'll hit Winota. And then the less they can actually make us trade for, the better. You know, if we can put them in a position where they're still chumping when we have a Winota on the board instead of chumping to, you know, or instead of trading with our creatures, so we can keep our non-humans on the battlefield, we'll feel a lot better about it. Okay, so opponent, yeah, is going to get in here. It is a little scary for them to hit us for 8 here, because they have the Shining Zenith, or what is that card? Their 4-mana spell that burns you equal to the number of cycling cards they have in their graveyard. That's very scary. But we will just cycle, or we will just loot away one of these light up stages. Try to find something a little less clunky. Okay. Oh, and we got our Hatebear. our namesake card here. So Drannith Magistrate is awesome, and it's awesome against what our opponent's trying to do in particular. So we'll go to combat, see if our opponent's okay. Just gonna make some 1/1. Sure. We'll go ahead and attack. Having this 1/1 on the board to protect our creatures means that we're not gonna attack with a 2/2, but if they do triple block or quadruple block, then we can sack it to get rid of 4 tokens, and that's probably worth it. Alright, but they're just gonna chump. And here we'll just play the Drannith Magistrate, which locks out their Lurrus. They're reading the card in horror, I'm sure. So now they can't cast any cards except from their hand, which their Lurrus is not in their hand, it's in exile. And also, Drannith Magistrate is good against Lurrus in multiple ways. Like, it's great against him because they can't cast him, but even if Lurrus is already on the battlefield, if we play Drannith Magistrate, well, now they can't cast cards out of their graveyard with their Lurrus, right? So, okay, Frostveil Ambush, sure. So they're just gonna make a bunch of 1/1s, sure. That's fine. We do have a pretty good defensive board here. Let's see what they do. Okay, they're just not going to attack. That's fine. Okay, we could play our companion here, but it's just not the best on a board full of 1/1s. I mean, it's basically just a 5/5 in our deck, right? Alright, Opponent makes more 1/1s. And that's nice, just having a free 5/5 for 5 that we can cast whenever we're flooding is awesome. Yeah, we'll just get in with everything. Again, we can sack our Azealid here if we need to protect our guys. We're just going to let the 2/2 trade for 2 of their tokens, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, we're not going to sack our Azealid or that. Maybe we shouldn't have attacked the 2/2 actually, that might have been a mistake, but we were hoping something would get through, but nothing did. So we're just going to light up the stage here. See what we get. Ooh, and a Lava Brink Venturer. Okay, that is the bomb. We're going to play our Lava Brink Venturer here. We're going to name Even as the converted mana cost that it's protected from. And not only is that protection from their 3/1s that are converted mana cost 2, it's protection from their tokens as well, because tokens are converted mana cost 0. Which is an even number as well. So, and its protection is protected against their 4-mana burn spell. Basically, you know, everything in their deck except their commander. You know, okay, yeah, they play a 2/2 for 2 here. Got protection against that. So, like, we're gonna be able to smash in unblockably with this Lava Brink Venturer, which is pretty awesome. Okay, another 2/2 for 2. It is kind of scary to... Yeah, here they go. Okay, they're gonna start... This makes sense. They're going to start gaining some life so that Venturer can't just knock them out of the game in a few turns. And they're also pinging us with this Stinger, which is a little scary, knowing that they could pull that 4-mana burn spell at any point. Alright, yeah, I'm going to cycle some more, make some more tokens, yada yada yada. Yeah, and they're gaining a good chunk of life off of this healer, so, but let's still get in with our unblockable dude. And here we just... do we want to play the one we have in exile? I mean, we've got enough mana at this point. I think we just play the temple to get, you know, to scry. Oh, yeah, we'll definitely keep the Winota. And we'll play our companion, finally. As a 5-mana 5/5, as a non-human 5-mana 5/5, importantly for our Winota next turn. And Winota is great here. So really, we're getting to the point where if they find their burn spell, they might not just have us dead, but they'll at least gain a ton of life, and then... Especially if they find 2 burn spells, we are dead in the water. Okay, now we're probably just dead straight up. The Stinger has kind of put us in the danger zone. Yeah, okay. We're not worried about getting Stingered to death, really. I think we're probably pretty safe from that. But if they end up drawing the Burning Zenith, whatever that card's called, it's something Zenith. They end up drawing that 4-mana burn spell that can just ding us for 8, 9, 10 or whatever. But apparently they haven't drawn it, so we'll play our Winota and go to combat and just... attack with our non-humans here. Yep. And not the Azealid. We'll leave the Azealid back. Oh, we should have gotten in with the 3... Ooh. Reverend Hoplite is going to make a lot of tokens, which is great defensively here, so they can't crack us back for some damage. And we'll take the evasive card here. I think we've already got their companion locked down with this first Magistrate. So we're just going to get in with a bunch of damage here, and we have these... We should have them dead next turn. We made a lot of tokens with our dude, with our Hoplite. He made 8 tokens, so we should have them pretty dead next turn. But so yeah, the opponent just chumps to try to stay alive. Yeah, and we'll just put as much damage on the board as we can. And if our opponent, it just comes down to, does our opponent draw that burn spell? If they do, we're dead. If they can't, then we win. Okay. All right, so they gain some life, ping us, make some 1/1. Sure. None of this. We got them pretty dead here, so they're going to need to cycle quite a few times to either kill us, like cycle 6 times this turn, or they're going to need to gain a huge chunk of life, or... Okay, well, this should be lethal. This should be, like, super lethal, so we'll just get in with everything. And unless they have their burn spell, their Zenith, to gain them a ton of life, which I assume they would have just already casted and killed us if they had it. Yeah, we'll take the Merchant, yeah. So just get in with a bunch more attackers. Sure. I assume they would have already cast it if they had it, so... opponent jumps. Alright, they're going to have to I mean, even if they block everything, they're still dead here. I guess the other way they might live is if they have a cycling card in hand and they just happen to like chain a bunch of cyclers together to gain enough life to survive this. But I think they would have to hit like 4 or so in a row. So the problem is we have at least 6 damage unblockable here with the lava brink. Like if they could block like super profitably, you know, all the biggest attackers with all their blockers, then maybe. But the fact that at least 6 of this damage is guaranteed. All right, and our opponent didn't have it, so this should be lethal. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. It's mega lethal, mega super lethal, and our opponent. Look at that board. Look at our board. It's crazy. Well, that was the deck in a nutshell right there. Yeah, Unchained Berserker seems pretty good against this deck. And what else do we want? Not Devout Decree. Maybe Lava Coil would be good. We just want to remove their problematic threat. Oh, Flame Sweep, yeah, of course, Flame Sweep. And go down the Conclave Tribunals. We really don't need them. We just have better removal now. Go down. We brought in some humans, so we want to not mix up. We want to not mix up the. We want to not mess up the mix of the humans and non-humans. So we'll take out the dudes there or the merchants. And what else do we take out? Maybe yeah. We did go down a Lava Coil just because we don't need. I think 2 is maybe too much. Maybe we go down a Leosaur or a Sky Knight Vanguard. I think we go down a Leosaur. I think we want the evasion for the Vanguard more than we want the Leosaur pump effect, because they can just fill up the board with 1/1 so easily. Alright, game 2. And we've got our Hatebear, which will shut down their command. Oh, they've got a little bit of hate here too with Grafdigger's Cage. That does shut down our Winota's ability. We can't put creatures into play from our deck anymore, thanks to Grafdigger's Cage. But, I mean, our deck isn't hardcore built around Winota is the thing. We're not like, you know, a Winota or Bust combo deck, basically. We are a Hatebears aggro deck with Winota as a finisher, right? So we should be okay. You know, obviously it's not ideal, because Winota is one of our better cards, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, opponent. Sure, they're going to start making 1/1s again. Sure. But we've got this Flame Sweep. Do we even... I was planning to run out these tokens, but we probably just want to sweep this board already, right? Like, it's probably worth it just to get these off the board. Even just a 2-for-1's worth it. So, yeah, we're just not going to play our tokens, and we're going to just pass back to our opponent. If they attack here, we will Flame Sweep just to... We don't want to take that much damage, because of the... Again, the 4-mana burn spell can just burn us out really easily, but... we are going to wait until they attack, because they could play out some more stuff pre-combat here, potentially. In which case, this Flame Sweep is even better. So, let's see what they do. They might feel pressured into running out their Lurrus just because they don't want to get it stuck in the... Yeah, okay. They just don't want to get it stuck by our Hatebear. But, because they felt that pressure, we're going to... Oh my gosh. We're going to, like, 1,000,000 for one of them with this Flame Sweep. Oh, yes. Alright. And say goodbye to all your creatures. Lurrus is gone forever, ostensibly. And, yeah, I think we do just run out Magistrate, just in case there's something I'm not thinking about. But plan on running out Magistrate and running out these 2/2s. And the next turn we can run out Lava Brinkbencher. And as we saw last game, naming... Oh, okay. That is something that can actually block our Lava Brinkbencher. That's the one, like, non-even converted mana cost. Well, okay, we should be able to kill it here. Even if they have another Cycler in hand, this kill... Okay, it seems like they didn't. The one thing that could have gone wrong there is that they had another Cycler in hand, cycled it, and then drew another Cycler and cycled it. Then they could make it big enough where we couldn't kill it, but that was our best window to kill it with a shock there. Okay, and they do find another payoff card, so our opponent's in there. We'll attack. We're okay with trading at this point. I don't think there's any way they can get back there. Okay. I don't think there's any way they can get back their lures, but now we'll just play out Lava Brinkbencher, put a clock on them, name Even, which, again, is like immune against their whole deck. So now we should be able to just kill them in a few turns with this Venture. Yeah, sure. Opponent cycles, makes it 1/1. And if we draw any additional Flame Sweeps, this Venture and this Draenith Magistrate both survive it, which is a nice upside. They both have 3 toughness, so we'll run out our 1/1s. Okay, well, we're just kind of going wide here, so we will attack. Opponent cycles, makes a 1/1. We're not going to attack with our 1/1s, but with the rest of our creatures we are. Because our opponent does not have really good blocks. They have to block with the 3/1 to kill either of the... Well, I guess they couldn't even block the 3/3, but to kill our Magistrate, they would have to block with the 3/1, which we would okay with. Okay. We'll just go wide here. We didn't attack with the 1/1s because they're non-humans, and if we... Oh, wait. Winota's shut down. Well, I guess we draw the Leosaur. Yeah, the Leosaur. That's what I was thinking about. We draw the Leosaur, we can pump him up. Yeah. I forgot Winota was kind of shut down there. But the Leosaur, yeah, it is a reason to leave our guys back. We can at least pump up the toughness by 1, so they have to double block. Okay. Play another Raise the Alarm. Just keep going wide. And our Leosaur is looking pretty good here if we draw one. Okay, well, we're just... Alright. Go to combat. Get in with the everything. And I think at this point we're willing... Our opponent is at 11. I think we just want to put the pedal to the metal here before they... The one way we can kind of lose this is if we kind of, you know, let them stall out for too long and they just, like, draw two Zenith Flares in a row. So we're just gonna attack all out from here on, and just try to kill our opponent before they can draw into 2 Zenith Flares. 1 Zenith Flare doesn't do it, but 2 would put us dead, and we don't want to just die to getting janked out. So, all right, we should, unless our opponent does something here, we should have lethal next turn. Man, Lava Blink Venture is just such a crazy card. Having protection against even is just... Woof! Okay, our opponent... Yeah, Zenith Flares. That means they'll probably survive this turn. Well, we did draw removal, that's good. Get rid of this guy. Get in with everything. Not quite lethal. So, it all just comes down to this. Do they draw a Zenith Flare or not? And it's not just like, do they top deck it? They also have cycling, so they also have a chance to cycle into it. So let's see. This is your turn, opponent. Alright, they even played the land. They're like, alright, this is what I got. Let's see what happens. Alright, they cycle once. Oh, and they didn't find it. Alright. Okay, so we took down, like, a real competitive deck there with our funny little budget deck. Our Hatebears. And the Hatebears were instrumental to us winning, right? The protection from even and our opponent's inability to cast their commander, or the fact that they felt pressure to cast it early, the second game, that was key to us winning, so sweet. Alright, playing some Winota Hatebears, and... Well, we can't keep this hand. No lands, can't keep that. Okay, this isn't super ideal. We don't have a lot going on in this hand, but we're not going to throw it back. We do have a Scry land to try to get us to something else to do. Let's say hello back. Most important part of every game. Yep, so let's see. Another land. Get that out of the way. Alright, well, we can start beating in with these Azelids. We do have removal here, which is something. Our opponent seems to be off to a kind of slow start, too. Okay. Yep. Leosaur's not the worst. Yeah, I think we just run out our 1/1s here. Start putting some bodies on the board, make this Leosaur pretty scary once we get to it. The Ozolith, okay. Ooh. Well, we could just get rid of that, but I don't think we want to take our whole turn doing that. We will just get in, and then... Yeah, we're just going to play out the Leosaur as a creature. This way, if we draw another Leosaur, we can double pump our guys by mutating onto this one, and we can also leave up shock like this. So we're just kind of going wide right now, trying to put some damage on the battlefield. See what our opponent's up to over there with the Ozolith. Our opponent's playing something cool. I haven't seen much of the Ozolith in Standard. Okay, Pelucranos. Alright, okay. Well, we're just going to shock our opponent here. We're playing the aggro deck this time. We can get rid of the Pelucranos, although in doing so, the tokens are going to get moved over to the Ozolith, but we still got to do it. I don't think we can... You know, we're just going to try to get in as much damage as we can here. So if we do draw another Leosaur, we can really just kill our opponent on the spot. But yeah, they're going to have... Whatever they play here is going to be huge, because they're going to be able to put all those tokens that were on the Pelucranos, they're going to be able to put it onto whatever other creature they play. So let's see what they got up their sleeve here. Ooh, Questing Beast. Oh my god. Alright. Okay. Just the old 10-10 hasty Questing Beast. That hurt. Okay, well, we can't cast that this turn, but we can get rid of the Questing Beast here. Pour some more damage on our opponent. Hopefully no other... Like, if they... Hopefully if they have another threat here, it's not another questing beast specifically, because getting in with haste is pretty scary. Okay, well, they're not putting their tokens on anything this turn. Okay, maybe they're just out of action. That's good. So we'll swing in here. We got our opponent down to 4 if they don't kill one of our creatures. We just played the kind of disruptive aggro deck here. Got our opponent's threats out of the way and are just beating them down with our little dudes. Okay. And we will just pass a turn. I mean, we would have loved to play one of these 5-drops. Oh god. Okay. That's big. We have gained some life back, thank goodness. Thanks to our little 1/1s here. That thing's gonna be gigantic. We can't just chump it though. It doesn't have trample. It's just a big creature. So I think we just throw one of our 1/1s in front of it. And we're looking pretty good. Let's see what our opponent has. What else our opponent has this turn, because they're just dead on board as is. Sure, opponent's scrying a bit. Alright, they didn't have enough. One blocker wouldn't do it there, so they must have... I guess one blocker would do it, actually, but they didn't even have that. So, alright, our opponent's on something interesting. I kind of want to go up the Devout Decree, but it's not the best against this deck. They do just have, like, questing beasts. We'll go up the universal removal, go up our creatures with protection from black, because even if they don't have a black creature, it's still useful to have a 2/1. And we'll go down, we'll just kind of trim around the edges here. Yeah, go down to shocks. Shocks don't seem very good. Maybe go down 3 shocks, actually. And yeah, just run it like that. Alright, game 2. Yep, and this is pretty much our deck doing what it does here. So we got a 1-drop into a 2-drop, and we can use those to fuel our removal. And having just lots of removal against this deck seems pretty key, because they don't really seem like they have a lot of threats. They just have powerful individual threats. So having a way to just kill anything. Okay, well that's something we'll probably want to get rid of before too long. This turn we'll probably just we want to make, I think I'd usually run out the evasion creature here, but I think we just want to make 2 1/1s because we're going to be wanting to use these removal spells, especially since we have 3 of them. Alright, Pelt Collector. And the Ozolith. Ooh, yeah, okay. Run out our 1/1s. I think we just start getting rid of things here. So we'll... Yeah, well, this time we'll run out the evasion creature. We can't do 2 removal spells anyway, right? So we're just gonna get rid of probably this enchantment with the Conclave Tribunal. And we're gonna leave up 1 mana so we can protect our evasive creature if they go to kill it. We can sacrifice our Azelid to protect it from any sort of removal spell. Okay, Grim Dancer, huh? That's pretty interesting with the Ozolith. So it's going to come into play. I'm guessing it's going to make like a Death Touch and... Alright. Sure. So, if it ever dies, they can put those ability counters on another creature. Kind of scary, but we'll get in with the creature we basically have a free attack with. They do get to gain some life, but it's still worth doing this. Like, they're going to gain more life than they lose here. It's still worth doing this because we get to turn on Light Up the Stage. For free. Okay. And here, I mean... Yeah, I'll probably just remove something else. Play our Drannith Magistrate. Play our removal spell. Conclave Tribunal. Tap down. Again, we're going to leave up 1 mana if we can, so we can protect our creatures. And just get rid of the Ozolith, I think. It's just, it's a scary card. It makes all of our removal feel a lot worse when they can just shift those counters around. So our opponent gets to crack us in the face here, sure. We're still at 21, though, so we're not too worried. Oy, Questing Beast. Questing Beast is a beating. Not only do they get to crack us in the face, but it pumps up their elf as well. So we take 10 damage. Oof. Alright, Get in, make a 1/1. Get in with a 1/3 too. It can't block the questing beast anyway, so sure. And we'll play out the Jingatha. This can at least trade. Actually, I guess we just get rid of the questing beast. We have the mana for it, so let's just get rid of it. Yep, questing beast is down, and the only way we really get punished for this is they have exactly another questing beast in hand. No other card really punishes us badly here. But if they don't, we should be in good shape. I think it was better to do that than to leave ourselves open to removal for Jingatha killing us. Well, well, we got punished. All right, so we're dead. I mean, that was the risk. We know they have, I'm sure, 4 questing beasts in their deck, so we were hedging against a removal spell versus a questing beast because they had already played a questing beast. So, but maybe that was wrong. Anyway, I think we just run it back. Final game against Tech here, and yeah, we'll keep this. We got the mono white hand, but we do have our secondary Hatebear here, Lava Brink Venturer, and should be pretty good against this deck, I think. I think we name even against this deck. It'll depend on what exactly their board looks like, but like all of their threats that I can think of, you know, their token was even, I guess that elf was the one thing that was odd, but everything else, the questing beast, etc., were even. The Pelucranos, so that's probably what we'll name, but let's get in for 1. Gain a little life. Plan on making a couple tokens here. Okay, opponent's gonna run out a 1/1 hasty creature. That's an interesting card, huh? 1/1, yeah, I guess we trade. Kind of a weird trade from our opponent, but I mean, we'll take it. Alright, so we'll get in with our 2 guys here and just play out a 3/3. Give it protection from even. Actually odd. Maybe we should have gone with even, but I'm worried about a Murderous Rider. So let's see what they got. Murderous Rider. I'm sure they got to be running Murderous Riders, right? So that's the #1 thing I think could kind of shut our creature down here. Okay, 2/1's fine. And we can't. The thing is with Questing Beast, it's not like we can chump the Questing Beast with our Lava Brink Venture, because Questing Beast, one of its like 10,000 abilities is that damage can't be prevented. So yeah, we'll play another. Well, I mean, we're just going wide here. Name odd again. We're just trying to get around the removal, and the fact that we have this Leosaur in hand is it's going to mean we're going to be able to pump our creatures. So even if they do have a big creature here, hopefully we'll have the ability to trade with it, with whatever they play, and they're going to have to block these big creatures. Let's see if they've got. Okay, Pelucranos. So yeah, maybe we should have done even. You know, there's a chance we should have done even. Maybe I was too worried about removal we actually haven't even seen yet. But in spite of that, yeah, we'll just play out our Jingatha and get rid of the Pelucranos. Crack in for 3 more damage, and we're looking pretty lethal next turn with this Leosaur. Sure, pass the turn. Maybe they do have removal in hand. They haven't been able to use it all game. Who knows? Maybe we made the right choice. Even was my first gut instinct because they have had pretty much all even threats. But yeah, I'm just trying to play around the Murderous Rider. All right, another Questing Beast, sure. But I don't think that does it. I think we are going to kill our opponent here. Play our Leosaur on our biggest creature because we want to pump the rest of them. Sure, keep the elk on top. Attack in, and I think this kills our opponent. All right, and good game, good game. Yep, and we just went wide that game. We did. I mean, our Hatebears weren't doing a lot of hating, but they were pretty good. Just as 3/3 attacker, so sweet. On to the next one. All right, playing some Winota Hatebears, and yeah, we'll keep this hand. I mean, any hand that has an evasive threat, which kind of our two 1/1s are, because I mean there's two attackers, so hopefully we can get through with one of them, right? Anything that has evasion plus our light up the stage is a pretty good start. Draw some free cards. Okay, opponent goes and gets blue source. All right, so this might be could be a flash deck, could be a teamer deck, like Teamer Adventures or something. Yeah, just pass the turn. Plan on making a couple 1/1s here. Alright, it is a teamer deck. Could be Adventures, could be actually a lot of things. Could be some kind of Luca deck, could be Wilderness Reclamation. We'll see. But let's get in with our 1/1s. And yeah, draw a couple cards while we have the chance. Alright, not bad. Play an evasive threat, and we're off to a good start here. Just kind of going wide, and we have these Leosaurs to really, really benefit from that. Let's see what our opponent's got up their sleeve. Next turn we can Leosaur plus Shock. Okay, I think this is probably a Wilderness Reclamation deck because they have Sharknado. Okay, it is. Blech. It is Wilderness Rec. I think we're going to try to get in with as much damage as we can before they start putting tokens on the battlefield and stuff. So we're just going to play our Leosaur here. I mean, if they do feel like they have to kill our creature in response to this... Alright, so they counter. That's fine. We'll shock them. The positive thing about this is it means they can't use this turn to draw cards, you know. They have to spend their turn just answering one of our threats. And so we'll see. Yeah, we just want to really put the pedal to the metal against this deck. All right, so they got all the mana in the west, so we just have to try to kill them before that matters too much. So I think we just go Leosaur again. Even though we can only do one thing this turn, I think our game plan is just be as aggressive as possible to try to, you know, not give them any time here. And the most aggressive we can be here is just pumping our whole team, putting this Leosaur on the board. Although it means we can't do anything else this turn, we're still going to do it. Alright. See if they've got something to respond with here. Alright, they're just going to make a 1/1. Alright, so opponent stays alive at 1, but we do have their back up against the wall here. They're going to need some kind of sweeper. I mean, one blocker doesn't do it. There is potential they could like play a threat here to block and also untap their mana and have some kind of removal, but we have put as much pressure as our deck kind of can here. We've played multiple Leosaurs. We've really forced them to answer us or die as much as we possibly could. So I think that's our strategy that's best against Wilderness Reclamation, at least in game 1. Alright. They've got an Uro, which gains them some life back. That's the worst part about that. They didn't put a land into play, though. So... okay. Well, I mean, we still technically have them dead on board, but I imagine they have something. Alright, looks like they're probably gonna explode us with their infinite mana, probably kill our Leosaur and draw some cards. That's a little rough. A little rough. But we still have them at a fairly low life total. Yep, our opponent, okay, explodes our Leosaur, draws a couple cards. At least they didn't have the opportunity. We still put them under enough pressure that they couldn't just, you know, do that with infinity mana. Alright, they did leave enough mana up to counter. Ooh, Drain the Magistrate's actually really good here. Because that's the thing, Drain the Magistrate shuts down commanders, or companions rather, but it also shuts down adventure creatures, it shuts down Uros, both very highly played. So it's just a really good Hatebear. We're going to try to bait the counter, I think, with Lava Brink Venture. If this does resolve, we're happy about it. Because we can... okay, well, it's going to resolve. We're going to give it protection from even. And... yeah, play out our Drain of the Magistrate. Hopefully they don't have a counter. If they don't, this should really shut down their creatures. I guess potentially we should have played the Magistrate first. Yeah, because they do have these... they do have these counters that make you pay X unless they counter. Maybe trying to bait the counter was the kind of the opposite way we should have done it. Alright, opponent gets back Uros, sure. Sure. Opponent untaps their lands. Alright, looks like they got something else to do here with all their floating mana. Hopefully not another explosion. It's kind of looking like another explosion. So we chose even because Brazen Borrower bounce is like their most common interactive spell. We'll see though. Might have been better to choose odd just so we can get through the Oko. Alright, opponent's just gonna... Sure. That's another tricky thing with this deck is they can kind of modulate their primary removal spell to get around Lava Brink's Venture's protection. So our opponent was able to come back here. We got him down to 1, but things aren't looking so good right now. Okay, we drew an Azelid, but not the best thing in the world here. We'll just run out the Jingata, see if it resolves. Yeah, they did have the counter. Ugh. Alright, well. All we can do is keep running out threats and hope we can somehow steal this, but it's not great right now. Sure, opponent runs out. Brazen Borrower. Gosh. Yeah, Wilderness Wreck is just a crazy card. Our opponent's just got, like, I don't even know how much mana from their Wilderness Wrecks this game, like plus 20, maybe more. Okay, and that's probably going to lock it up, unfortunately, because now, even if they're just opting or whatever, they can start making 1/1s. So, I don't think we can outvalue that, or, you know, I don't think we can get underneath it to kill them. Yeah, make a 4/4 blocker. That's probably going to do it, because they can cast this twice, even with no other cards. If every other card in their hand is a land, they get to recast this out of their graveyard and make another 4/4. Alright, they cycle away, sure. And we'll just... Yeah, I think we just scoop it up here. I don't think there's a way we can get out of this, unfortunately. So, okay. We almost had him, got him down to 1, but not quite finish it off, unfortunately. We'll bring in definitely our enchantment removal in the form of a Conclave Tribunal. Anything else in this? Maybe some protection for our creatures is good. Maybe go down to Shock. Shock seems pretty bad against this deck, and we'll run it like that. Alright, game 2, and we will go first. Yeah, we'll keep this hand. I mean, we've got interaction, we got ways to remove their make infinite mana, 4-mana enchantment. The one of many of those in Standard. That seems to be Wizards' new design area they're exploring, is how much mana can we give somebody for a 4-mana enchantment. Alright, play out our tap lands. Next turn we can play Azelid and hold up a Shock. Okay, yeah, that doesn't change anything. We're happy to have drawn a land here, though. We'll just play this tapped instead of holding up a Shock. Like, what are we going to shock, really? Okay. Opponent passes. Could be holding up their bounce spell here. If so, we'll see what we want to do about it. We'll get in first. We could just play this and name even. Okay, no, they had an actual counter. Okay, well, that's fine. Sure. There's the Uro. Okay, Leosaur's not a bad draw. Yeah, we just get in here. Plan on making a couple of 1/1s and seeing where we go from there. If they do just Conclave Tribunal here, we can, or if they do just Wilderness Reclamation here, we can deal with it. So it's not the end of the world. Yeah, make a couple 1/1s. All right, and then we just plop down our Leosaur, try to put as much damage on the board as we can. Sure. Opponent draws a card. Sure. Ops. So they're just looking for any sort of interaction here to save themselves. Okay. They kept it on top, which is a little concerning, but we'll get in, deal a bunch of damage. Again, our game plan here is just to smash our opponent in the face as much as we possibly can. Ooh, okay, well, on the positive side, we can save our Leosaur, because we left up this mana, so we don't lose everything. Your opponent ops, that's fine. We have pro red. Alright, and get in, hit our opponent, play out our Azelid, and pass turn. These removal spells I think are usually pretty good, these Conclave Tribunals against Wilderness Wreck, but our opponent just, our opponent has not given us any targets. Well, never mind. That's not true anymore. Sure. Opponent draws a card, gains some life. We played it untapped, which is a little concerning. We will shock him in the face. And pass a turn, and let's see. Well, this is free mana. We're planning to play our removal spell to get rid of this Uro anyway, so... I think we want to leave a couple mana up here to play around a Quench, is what we're going to do. So if they have a Quench here, we can pay for it. Alright, they're just going to draw some cards, sure. That's another card that, if we have our Draenith Magistrate, they can't cast flashback cards either. So that would be pretty cool. If we could draw into that so they can't use that card out of their graveyard, we'd be pretty happy about it. Okay, Shark Typhoon. Yep, so our window is closing here. We still need to... Okay, well, never mind. Now we're going to just drop Winota. Hopefully they don't have a counter spell. They do not. Alright. And we have to get in here with 3 non-humans. Winota's so strong. Jeez. Yep, and we'll put a Venture into play. We're going to give it protection from even, because that means if they make a token here, it can't block. We'll take the Evasive Threat. And let's see. And we'll take the Evasive Threat. Alright, so we got some flyers. We've got a 3/3 that they can't block. Sure, they're going to make a 2/2 here, but it can't block our Lava Brink Venturers, so... And all these creatures we just spit onto the battlefield means our Conclave Tribunal could be basically free if we need it to be. Next turn. Alright, so get our opponent down to 3. Let's see what they got. Luckily our Lava Brink Venture... Okay. Yep, sure. I mean, they can make as many tokens as they want. None of them can block Lava Brink Venture, and that's... It's got exactly lethal. Sure, okay. They once again have infinity mana. Let's see if they've got something to do with it. Well... Alright, I don't even think we need to cast these Conclave Tribunals. I think we're just going to leave up the mana to... Well, one, we're going to make our Winota unblockable here, so we have 2 lethal attackers. So if somehow they can't answer our Lava Brink Venture, we have another attacker that's for lethal, and then we can just leave up the other mana. So if they have a removal spell, we can protect our Lava Brink Venture. So all these combined, they're going to need a lot of cards to survive this. We're going to have 2 unblockable threats, and one of them, we can stop at least 1 interactive spell. Okay. Sure. This is game, though. Yeah, sure, whatever. They kill our Winota. I mean, we're going to save it, but it doesn't really matter because Lava Brink Venture can't be blocked here, and that's what's important. So give it pro red, give it pro blue, and they're double dead here. Yep. Alright. Good old protection, so... Alright. So Winota, I think, bailed us out there. Being able to spit all those things onto the battlefield is really powerful. And I think we just throw it back as is. Alright, final game against Wilderness Reclamation with our Winota Hatebears deck. Our opponent mulligans, that's great. We don't have a turn 1 play, but we do get to scry with our land, and then turn 2 we can play out our tokens. We really would love to be on the play. I mean, that's always... Oh, yeah, okay. We'll definitely keep that on top. We don't have the mana to cast it yet, but we're not throwing it back. We should be able to get in with these tokens and start drawing cards with these light up the stages, which should easily get us to our 4th land. But we'd love to be on the play against this deck. You can see like how game 1 went. We got them down to 1, and if we could just, you know, just having that little bit of extra advantage by being on the play is super great when it comes down to the wire like that. Okay, we draw the cards while we can, and okay, I think we're gonna play out one of our Hatebears here. So this is good. That means like if they're just doing like Oko or doing if they're just doing Chemister's Insight, they can't cast the second half out of their graveyard now. So that was a 4 mana draw too, and that's it. So we'll get in here, light up the stage again, try to hit our lands. Ooh, still no lands. Well, we're gonna play the Draenith Magistrate before we lose it. We'd like to go a little wider here, but I think this is a good card against him, so I think we'll play a second one. Not the most aggressive play we could have made, but okay. Man, it kind of sucks we didn't hit any lands in all those light up the stages. We would have been in really good shape. Yep, opponent untapped, sure. But they have to have actually something to do. They can't cast the Chemister's Insight out of their graveyard, so... Okay, we'll attack. See what they got. And we'll just play out these tokens before we lose them, because we only have until the end of the turn. And shock. So we just play out everything. Man, we cannot find a fourth land. Ah, we would be in such good shape if we could just play a little bit more than we can here, but we're stuck on 3 lands. We have drawn like 4 extra cards too, so... But hopefully we're still in good shape. Our opponent's down to 9. They don't have really anything going on. They can't cast cards out of their graveyard. Okay, sure. Opponent wipes away our 1/1s, but our Magistrates survive. They still can't cast the card out of their graveyard. Jeez, still no lands. Man. Man, ugh, brutal. What is the best thing we can do here? Let's get in. Deal a couple damage. Our opponent's eyeballing the Chemister's Insight in the graveyard, but you can't cast it, opponent. We got that locked down. I think we just play out a couple threats here, rather than just play the Lava Brink Venture. I think, in case they have a counterspell, we want to play 2 things. And this gives us a non-human on the battlefield, so if we do draw a land and slam Winota, we get at least 1 trigger with this Azlid. Alright. Alright, looks like opponent might have an explosion, which is... they must have just drawn it. I think they would have cast it before now, if not. That's the worst thing for them to have drawn. On its face, it's not so bad, but the reality is usually explosions draw into more explosions. They could just, like, kill us here before we get a chance to finish them off. They're so close to dead. I don't know. If they tap out all the way for an explosion, we can Leah Sword here and kill them. So hopefully that's what they do. Just, like, draw a million cards, tap themselves out. We'd be pretty happy about that. Yeah, they did draw the explosion. Oh, and they're actually going to kill our creature. Okay. Man, we're just short of lethal, actually. If we play the Leah Sword here, they still survive with 1 life. Ugh, so close. Well, we'll get in. See if they've got an answer. They do not. Okay. We're just going to play out the Leah Sword as a creature. Alright, they do have a counter for it. We're just trying to play around their counters here, play out the other Leah Sword as a creature. We just need to get in a little bit more damage here, so we're just trying to play around their counters as best we can by deploying 2 threats in a turn. We could have run out Winota there, but it would have been countered. Alright, so they got another Wilderness Wreck. Hopefully if they didn't draw another explosion, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. They do have, like, infinity mana, but they can't cast stuff out of their graveyard, which means, you know, they can't play Okos, they can't play this Chemister's Insight. They're just stuck to whatever's in their hands, so we're pretty happy about that. And the Flame Sweeps don't deal with our Drannith Magistrate, so even if they sweep our board here and deal with a couple of our creatures enough to stay alive, there's still the Drannith Magistrates locking them out of, like, the most powerful things their deck can do. Okay, they can play the Oko. They get the front half of the Oko, sure, but they can't escape it back. Alright, they untap their lands, and... Well, we can only really do 1 thing this turn anyway. There's no way we can cast 2 spells, so... I think we just run out the Winota. If this does resolve, we are supremely happy. But if it doesn't, there's no way we could have done 2 things anyway, so... This should be lethal if it resolves. Because we have 2... Okay, alright, go to combat. Come on now. Let's attack. Let's attack. Come on. No! Don't bounce our Winota, please. Oh, wow, they're gonna... Okay. Well, they explode... They've had to explode our creatures, which is good. Hopefully means they're not gonna be killing us with the explosions. And we'll get in. We're still just a little bit short of lethal. Oh, they had an Ether Gust, too. Yeah, we'll put it on bottom. think we mostly want to draw, you know, cheap spells here. Okay, Shark's a little scary. We do have the Venture to get through their tokens, though. Okay, they had... Even though they can't recast the Uros out of their graveyard, just gaining that 3 life is just consistently keeping them in the game. Ugh. Okay, opponent's gonna try to do something. Okay, so they do make a token. Well, you can see all the cards that are locked in their graveyard thanks to Drain of the Magistrate. So they would be recasting Okos and drawing a million cards with all their mana with their Chemister's Insights, but they can't. I think here we just have to run out the Magistrate. If it gets countered, it gets countered. Okay, it doesn't. Okay, so we choose even. That means it can get through their tokens. And we're going to leave up 1 mana here to protect our Venturer. I guess because we're not going to attack anyway, we might as well use our creatures as mana here. We can still leave up the 1 mana to protect our Venturer against an explosion with our Azelid. So we're just going to get rid of the... I think the Shark... it's kind of tempting to get rid of the Wilderness Wreck, because I'm still kind of worried about getting like burnt out with a giant explosion, so getting rid of some of their mana doubling would be nice, but I think more likely than that is just getting killed by flying sharks, because next turn they get to cast like, you know, they'll probably get to cast like, you know, 4 or 5 spells, make a bunch of sharks, and we're not going to kill them next turn, so they'll have a chance to attack with all those too. So I think the correct thing to do there was to take away their source of threats, even though it does let them, you know, triple their mana by keeping both of those, which makes any explosion really dangerous. All right. Opponent growth spirals. All right, they had another shark tornado, and another wilderness wreck. Okay, but we did slow them down, because otherwise they would just make a 6/6 and a 4/4, or I guess a 6/6 and 2 4/4s this turn, which would be, I believe, lethal next turn, because I'm sure they have some instant speed stuff as well. Let's see what they got. Hopefully not an explosion. Anything besides an explosion. Oh, okay, they're scrying. I'm assuming they're scrying to find the explosion, so we did our best to keep these sharks off the battlefield, but it's possible that even just a couple sharks here hitting us and then following it up with an explosion is enough to take us down this game. All we can do is be as aggressive as we can here. Opponent just gets to scry a million. Wilderness Reclamation. Ugh. So, I'm actually not feeling good about where we're at. They just get to dig so deep in their deck. It's ridiculous. And dig deep they have. They've scryed everything to the bottom, so... Ugh. Alright, yeah, we're just gonna get in here. All we can do is put lethal on board for next turn. That's the best play we can make. Yep, and I mean, we have lethal here, so we're just gonna pass. Our opponent has to either kill us this turn or find a way to make us not have lethal. Okay, opponent gets in, hits us in the face with a couple sharks. We're gonna take it. Okay, let's see what they got. Hopefully not an explosion. I mean, I think explosion kills us even if we do chump block there, so... please! They scryed so much. The chances of them not having it after scrying that much are fairly low, and it looks like they're tapping a bunch of mana, so... I think our opponent got us this game, unfortunately. Well, they're certainly tapping mana like they have it, so if this is the end, then at least we got to see our Hatebears do what they do, right? Look at all the cards in our opponent's graveyard that are locked out. They've got all this draw, they could do all these Okos they can bring back, but Drain of the Magistrate just completely locks all that out. And even with this big scary board they have, where they're making like gigantic tokens every turn with an infinite mana, our other Hatebear is going to mean we have lethal next turn through all that. So we were down to the wire in both these games, and if they... let's see if they've got it or not. If they don't have specifically Explosion, I think we're going to win. But if they have specifically Explosion, we're definitely not going to win. We're dead. Let's see. Alright, they had it. Alright, well, c'est la vie. They got us. Sure. Yeah, there's no way we could have we could have beaten that. No amount of chumping would have saved us. So we're dead, but we did get to see our Hatebears do what they do, and it was, I mean, the deck was pretty good in spite of, you know, our loss there. We got him down to one game. We had him lethal next turn the following game, so if we had gone first this game, I think we would have actually won. But, you know, our opponent had a cool deck too. So. Alright, so our Winota Hatebears deck ended up being pretty powerful and pretty flexible. It's a deck that kind of feels like it has it all. It has ways to disrupt your opponent, can be really aggressive sometimes, to just kill our opponent before they have a chance to do anything. We have some card draw effectively, so it can play a little bit more like a mid-rangey deck sometimes. And then also we just have this kind of combo finisher that should kill our opponent most times it goes off. So the deck's cool as is, but now let's talk about upgrades. And the most obvious upgrade you can make here is just upping the number of our Hatebears. You know, we only have 2 Drannith Magistrates, we only have 2 Lava Brink Ventures, we only have 3 copies of Winota. So if we up Winota to 4, up Lava Brink Venture to 4, we might want to just keep Drannith Magistrate as 2 in the main deck and maybe put 2 more in the sideboard. Because in the matchups where Drannith Magistrate is good, it's really, really good. We do want 4 copies. But then there's some times where it's not, you know, super great, and we can side it out during those cases. So maybe 2 in the main deck, 2 in the sideboard, and 4 copies of these 2, and that would be fantastic. But aside from just more copies of the rares that are already in the deck, Hushbringer will be a great card to put into our sideboard. So Hushbringer is basically another Hatebear. She's a 2-mana, 1/2 with flying and lifelink, and she has the ability creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. So if you go up against a deck that has a lot of enter the battlefield abilities, Hushbringer is great to bring in. The only enter the battlefield abilities we actually have are Reverend Hoplite and Venerated Loxodon, so she's more of a sideboard card, and if you side her in, you probably want to side those out. But giving us another Hatebear and actually a non-human with evasion, which is great for Winota, it just makes her a great fit in this deck. Tithebreaker basically just makes it really hard for our opponents to cast spells during our turn, and typically this is pretty good against control decks or, you know, any decks that are just looking to do stuff on your turn. You know, decks with a lot of flash or a lot of instance. Tidetaker really punishes them, and having Afterlife 1 means that even if our opponent does answer it, we still have a body out of it. You know, having that 1/1 flyer is pretty good for, like, Venerated Loxodon. It's also a non-human for our Winota, and a 1/1 flyer is pretty good at evasion. So adding cards like Tithebreaker, adding cards like Hushbringer will really allow us to get a critical mass of Hatebears that will allow us to really disrupt our opponents. And Tidetaker, again, is one of those you might want to have like 1 or 2 copies in the main deck, 1 or 2 copies in the sideboard, because it is good in certain situations and not so good in other ones. But I mean, in general, a 2/1 that dies and makes a 1/1 flyer is not that bad anyway, so probably worth running at least some copies in the main deck. It probably comes as no surprise that Bone Crusher would be fantastic in this deck. The card is pretty much a staple across standard for a reason. It's just very powerful. Having its 2-mana adventure spell is a way to have interaction while also just having a 3-mana 4/3, again a non-human, which is great for our Winota. You know, Bone Crusher Giant just kind of does it all. Definitely just run as many copies of Bone Crusher as you've got. It's just going to be great in this deck, like it is in pretty much every deck it's run in. Legion Warboss is a great way to just generate a lot of non-human tokens very quickly, and is also just a pretty powerful threat. So if you wanted to lean more into the sort of aggro deck with Winota as a finisher on top, more than Hatebears, we might want to look at Legion Warboss. Just a really powerful card. If your opponent can't answer it right away, it just kind of gets out of control, especially with a Winota on the battlefield. Like, you can imagine, play Legion Warboss turn 3, make a token, play Winota turn 4, make a token, and just between these 2 cards, you know, Legion Warboss made 3 non-humans on its own that are all attacking immediately, and you get to get 3 triggers off Winota. You get to spit a bunch of stuff onto the battlefield. So it might be kind of hard in the Hatebear strategy. I'm not sure if you could bring this in, because there's some competition in the 3-drop spot with Lava Brink Venture. So you'd have to kind of think about if you wanted to be like sort of do an aggro deck take on Winota, in which case you could maybe not run as many Lava Brink Ventures and run more Legion Warbosses. And finally, like always, just bring in some copies of the castles if you've got them. They're just free value. We'd probably make a little bit better use of Castle Embereth in this deck than Castle Ardenvale. The 1/1 token Castle Ardenvale makes is a human, which means it doesn't go very well with Winota. I mean, making a 1/1 is still okay. We do have ways to take advantage of that with like Regal Leosaur or Venerated Loxodon. But I think in general, we'd probably get more mileage out of Castle Embereth. You know, its abilities to give a +1/+0 to all the creatures we control mean if we do have just a bunch of Raise the Alarm tokens and tokens made by Sky Knight Vanguard, and maybe, you know, we pumped with a Regal Leosaur, you can pump again with a Castle Embereth or whatever. If you've got a few copies of them, you can just take out a couple planes, slot in Castle Ardenvale, take out a couple planes, slot in Castle Embereth, and it's almost free in a 2-color deck. There's very few times you're going to actually have these enter the battlefield tapped, and it's just some free value you can put in your mana base. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's Running on a Budget. Winota Hatebears deck was super fun. I really enjoyed it, and it's like one of my favorite archetypes of Magic, so it was cool to see it in Standard. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching, because I enjoyed playing. This has been 2D, and I'll see you next time.